Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Your Story Medicine. I am your host, Juma Kay, and today I am with the amazing Dr. Shena.
Hey.
Dr. Shena is the creator of Kindred Medicine, and I have watched this wonderful platform grow into just a seedling into what is now bearing fruit for other aspiring healing practitioners of color to step into their medicine, to launch their businesses, or to find mentors to support them on this journey. And also, what I love about Dr. Sheena's work is that she also recognizes, as a professional, as a mental health expert and provider, that healing is so much more than something that happens in the mind. It requires all of us, our body, and to also our
Mhm.
spirit, because how much of what it is we carry is oftentimes intergenerational. So, without further ado, welcome, Dr. Sheena,
Thank you so much for having me. This is a special treat on a Monday.
on a Monday where we both get to show up raw and natural,
Yes,
literally.
yes. Y'all don't know about the backstory when we first saw each other, but this is how it is. This is how we're showing up today.
So, Dr. Sheena, in your own words, well, first of all, I'd love to hear where is it that you're calling from? And then also, what is your medicine?
Yes. Wow. Second question. I'm not even ready for that yet. So I am originally from Houston, Texas, but I currently live on Tongva territory in also known as Los Angeles, California. So I feel like I'm in one of the states that, and you're here too, June, that are really impacted by what's happening in our shifting world. So the medicine continues to evolve. In my day job, I work as a body inclusive and holistic psychologist, trauma informed yoga teacher and trainer, and also an energy healer. And I'm also the creator of Kindred Medicine, as you mentioned, which I'm sure we'll have more space to talk about. And my superpower is about reflecting and holding and reflecting, holding, and supporting discovery of personal truth. The name of my practice is Embodied Truth Healing, and it's very much about bridging what we know in our bodies and what we share and how we share ourselves in the world. So the medicine continues to expand and grow, and depending on the day or the moment, I'm drawing on different things.
I feel you because yesterday I was asked to submit one sentence about what it is I do. And I probably stared at my screen for 2 hours because I'm like, how can I summarize this in
Mm-hmm.
just a couple of words? And so I'm with you on that. And also that we are rediscovering new parts of ourselves that we
Mm-hmm.
can offer after we first embody it for ourselves.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. I feel like as long as I'm committed to my journey and my work, my medicine will continue to change and shift and evolve as well.
So tell me, my favorite question, what is your ancestral lineage and how is it influencing the way that you're showing up today?
Yeah, so my journey with my ancestors has been quite interesting. Much like I'm sure there are many people that can relate, I don't know a lot about my ancestral legacies, at least in the way that we talk about them in this world, right? To be able to name, I'm from here, and this is what we do. These were our traditions. So a lot of my relationship building and growth with my ancestors has been through my spiritual journey. Um, I know that I have roots in West Africa, Nigeria specifically, and I'm sure it is rich and colorful and so layered in terms of my heritages. But my spiritual practice has been such a vessel for connecting with ancestors. I was speaking with someone recently who was sharing that they never knew any of their grandparents. And like this person that was sharing, I've never known any of my grandparents in this realm either. So that has been part of my discovery and curiosity. And I lean heavily on African spiritual traditions to honor my ancestors, to be in relationship with them, to get to know them, to call them closer. And that's been a wonderful discovery, a wonderful process.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I think that we tend to glorify what does it mean to connect with our ancestors. And I acknowledge that being able to trace back my lineage is a huge privilege because my
Mm-hmm.
parents immigrated here from their motherland.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'm finding that for many of us who do identify as healing practitioners, it's because we are on this search of reconnecting with our roots. Even though I know my ancestral lineage,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my healing traditions. I know that right now is New Year for my people. As of today, when we're recording this, it's Cambodian Tai Lao New Year. So Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
Thank you. And I'm like, what do I do? What are my traditions other than the
Mm-hmm.
parade that we usually have in our city, which is Long Beach every year? And at the same time, we get to create our own new rituals. And what I've been finding is as I do that, I'll find evidence that somewhere either in my lineage or just not even my own lineage, but all of us had similar rituals, whether it comes to libations or prayer. And so I feel like when we are able to remain curious,
Mm-hmm.
that's when our ancestors start revealing themselves. And it doesn't have to be our blood ancestors either. That's been a
Right.
beautiful gift, is being able to connect with my chosen
Mm-hmm.
ancestors.
Yeah, totally. And you know, in the spirit and energy of our communities of color in particular, who are rediscovering ancestors and rediscovering indigenous traditions, I think it's often left out of the conversation that there's also pain in that, right? There's pain in not knowing and not having the privilege of knowing where we come from and how we did what we did, right? So, as much as there is excitement and enthusiasm, and it's really a sacred opportunity to reclaim and to rediscover, it can also bring up a lot of pain, which has been part of my journey as well. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, so that um, people can honor the shift that's happening in so many of us, to investigate and to look back and to give themselves permission to return to what they've known and what continues to live with us in our spirits. So, it's the light in the dark, very much so.
Yeah. So tell me, as somebody who is investing so much of their energy and holding space for others in this excavation,
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that you are currently doing so that you can remain rooted and grounded?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, as I mentioned, I'm a psychologist, and I am still seeing clients right now, which I'm so grateful to be able to support and hold people, and also grateful to be able to continue my work. Um, and it's an interesting time to be working and holding space for the thing that I am also impacted by, right? This shift in our world and COVID-19. So to be holding space at the same time for me, for myself, and also other people is really interesting. I don't know that I've ever had this experience in quite this way. And I'm finding that every day is a little bit heavier. Every day is a little bit different than the day before. And it's been really important for me to practice grounding. And I say practice because it is a continuous process. It is checking in with myself moment to moment, even just to put my feet on the ground to feel the earth supporting me so I don't forget that our earth isn't moving against us, right? Lots of breathing. And I had a spiritual elder tell me that this is the time for me to rest like a baby. And that brought tears to my eyes because I had a moment earlier that day, actually, where I was like, it's a privilege to be able to sleep soundly, to be able to grow up in a home where you sleep safely and quietly. And so I'm giving myself lots of permission and space to rest. I continue to move my body. I'm really craving my dance classes. I'm missing the spaces that I had, the safe spaces I've had to move. But I am really enjoying cultivating and deepening my home practices as well. I find that I don't have a lot of energy to be social, and I am allowing that to be okay too, right? To kind of cocoon and be sweet to myself in solitude. So that's been wonderful and surprising.
I love that, being sweet to ourselves. How many of us give ourselves that medicine?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right there with you. I've been sleeping in longer than usual. The first week was challenging because I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be doing something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I think the rest of the world is kind of in a shock. And so I'm just going to allow my body to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know that we're also both because we're both small business owners and we're content creators. I think that oftentimes in our space, it's the pressure to show up and produce. And for me, this is my contribution that I can offer in a way where it feels like it's something that's filling my cup and therefore hopefully filling up the cups of those who are watching as well. But I would love to learn, what is it that you are learning to release?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. The first thing that came to mind was that I've developed this random, spontaneous practice of taking midday baths. And um, And so when I think about what that means and what it offers and what I might be releasing in those moments, um, is is the need to hold myself up, or the practice of holding myself up. So I'm giving myself moments to release what I hold, um, and to allow myself to be nurtured. Whenever I'm in water, I feel mothered. So I am releasing for the moment, at least. I think this will be an ongoing practice, and I will continue to delve into this. But that um, there are many ways to be mothered and nurtured, and when I'm especially in the intention of being sweet, um, I think it's okay to discover all the ways in which that can happen. The other day, I was doing a meditation with that same spiritual elder, and she said the word receive. And I got immediately tears in my eyes. And before I knew it, I was crying. So just hearing the word receiving, receive, every time she said it. So I am also releasing any expectations that other people have of me to show up in the way that they want or need. And I'm allowing myself to receive more. I certainly am holding close to my heart all the healers and the therapists. I feel like we're the forgotten frontline workers. And I, am hoping that people are giving themselves moments to receive too, because we won't be able to sustain doing it the other way.
Yeah, as somebody who also works with my own clients, as of now, I run a program that is tailored toward women of color to birth their own sacred offerings and to tell their story. And right now was meant to be the phase where we're starting to put more stuff out there. And instead, the message I've also been getting and giving is what a beautiful invitation to simply receive other people's offerings, or to just practice receiving the medicine it is you want to give to others
Mm-hmm.
for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, and I feel like receiving the moment, receiving the breath,
Mhm.
receiving sacred timing, um, receiving space, right? Some of those things that are afforded to us that we take for granted, right? How, like, what does it look like to really receive my breath, right? To feel it in my body. And what does it really feel like to receive spaciousness and sacred pausing? Yeah, it gets really intimate, I think, when we think about our relationship with receiving, and also from an embodied perspective, which I know you love that.
Yes, I love it. And also, one of the opportunities I've come across is that not everybody knows what embodiment means. And
Mm-hmm.
even for myself, as somebody who comes from a more academic and intellectual background, I have
Mm-hmm.
found that I've needed to unlearn some of these things that I've accumulated that I know are rooted in colonization.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we were to invite people to embody what it means to receive,
Mm-hmm.
what would that feel like for people?
Yeah. Well, what first comes to mind is that it would be a unique experience that is just their own. When I think about embodiment, for me, it means to be present in this physical body that I have in ways that um, allows me to experience fully my truth, sense of presence, authenticity, whatever is happening in the moment. It allows me to expand in whatever is happening in the moment, or to shrink in whatever is happening in the moment. It invites a deeper awareness of how my body, my lived body, is experiencing whatever might be happening. So, if if the question is about what that means for individuals, I always start off with an invitation to remember a time where they felt really empowered, where they felt like they could only be present with what was happening in their bodies, what they were hearing, what they were seeing, what they were feeling. And usually, if someone is able to recall a moment, they're like, oh, yes, that's what that was, right? And I think we deserve to be able to walk around in our world like that all the time. But many of us, as you mentioned, as people of color in particular, our bodies have been the crime scene, right? Our bodies have not been safe spaces. And so some of our healing work then becomes about that. What is the relationship between my body and myself meeting in order to be more intimate, for me to be more present with my body, for me to feel safe here, to be able to have new experiences, to invite people closer, and or to establish boundaries and space and feel good about that too. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I invite myself to do first and foremost, and then extend this practice onto others, is to envision how it is you want your future self to feel,
Mm-hmm.
cultivate, generate that emotion inside of your body, and then walk as if that future version of yourself is already you. How
Yeah.
is it that you would shift the way you walk in this world? How is it you would change the way you respond to certain actions or words that,
Mm-hmm.
or people that might have triggered you?
Mm-hmm.
What would your
Yeah.
new response be so that you can create a new reality?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, I mentioned that my practice, embodied truth healing. Um, I I think that embodiment is really about walking in truth, being present in truth, and knowing what it feels like in your body. So I appreciate you sharing that. If you were walking with what you know about yourself and what you know um, is true for you, how would it look different? Right? Responsibly, right? Because I think we all have those days where we wish we could, you know, be reckless. But what would it look like in your highest self to embody your truth and to move in that way? Yeah.
Yeah, not like I'm going to embody being a millionaire, therefore I'm going to spend everything it is I have.
Right.
Nothing like
Yeah.
that.
Not that part.
So, and this probably relates to what it is we're already talking about, but do you have a ritual or practice you can share with people so that they can also find ways to return back to themselves and their body in this time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think rituals are really important. And I've been having conversations with people about how we're looking for other people to define what rituals are. I always take it back to intuition because I feel like our relationship with our intuition is often one of the biggest ruptures that we have as people of color in particular in the world, that we've been taught not to trust ourselves. We've been taught not to listen to our inner voice, and. So any practice that honors return to intuition and a deeper knowing of that, like literally knowing where your intuition lives in your body and being able to place your hands there or to envision where it lives in your body, how it's showing up as color or texture or imagery or sensation, and asking yourself the questions, what am I feeling? And from that place, asking, what do I need? Right. And I think as we um, strengthen and condition that muscle, we find it easier to practice embodiment and to walk in our truth. So, moment to moment, especially during a time like this, I'm asking myself those two questions over and over again. What am I feeling and what do I need? And from that place, usually, at least for me, I'm able to identify patterns. And from those patterns, I'm able to create rituals that help me to support myself and shift what's no longer serving me and call in what I'm needing that is different and that fortifies my growth. So, a ritual could be waking up in the morning and putting your feet on the floor or bringing your head to make contact with the earth, right? Asking the earth to support you. A ritual could be making a cup of tea, right? And whispering sweet prayers in the tea so that then you ingest them, right? And that supports embodiment. But anything that supports repair the relationship with our intuition, repair it like your life depends on it, because it does.
Okay, so I'm curious if you've received this response from others when you ask them, what is it you need?
Mm,
Because I come across this a lot, especially with women of color or people who come from a lot of trauma. When you ask that question, oftentimes the response might be, I don't know what it is I need.
mhm,
And so,
mhm,
how is it that we can start identifying what those needs are and naming
mhm.
them so that we can start reclaiming our autonomy?
Yeah, I think that's a common experience, right? Because we were talking about colonization earlier. And for women of color in particular, we've been expected to externalize our gaze and our compass, to be attuned to what everybody else is needing, before we know what we're needing. And sometimes oftentimes at the expense of ourselves, right? We can go way back. We can talk about, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. And so I think some of the healing then is acknowledging, I don't know the answer to this question. And so right now, I'm just going to sense into my body. I'm going to check in with my breath. Maybe my breath is short, right? So maybe I just need to take a fuller breath, whatever that means in the moment. Take it to the basic. Have I eaten? Have I rested enough? Am I breathing? Right. And I think that practice of checking in with ourselves creates more space for a richer pool of potential responses. Sometimes we don't know what we need, but we can identify what we want in the present moment. And so that's also a great practice too. Maybe I want to feel sunlight, right, on my feet or on my hands. Maybe I want a milkshake, right? So
Unapologetically.
unapologetically. So I think there is compassion. So there's space for self compassion in the unlearning and in the return to the knowing that we are worthy of having what we need and what we want moment to moment.
I love that. And I think that we tend to over intellectualize or overcomplicate what our healing or liberation can look like. And I love how the practices you are doing, it goes back to the very basics of babying ourselves, of
Mm-hmm.
taking naps in the middle of the day, of taking a bath. I need to
In the
live
middle
like
of the day.
that. In the
Yeah.
middle of the
Throw
day.
some flowers in there, throw some coconut oil and
Yeah.
some Epsom salt, and you have a whole spiritual bath going on at 2 p.m.
Drink some water,
Mm-hmm.
nourish yourself, touch yourself, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you're lacking that touch, and to give ourselves the intimacy it is that we are craving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so what's one action you would like to invite any of our listeners to take?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would invite people to take a moment to search themselves, to be curious about where their intuition lives in their body. I'm going to go back to that because that is when I occupy a space and when I leave, I want that to be something that people are thinking about. So I would invite people to take a moment when it feels right and search themselves for where that lives. Maybe it lives in multiple places, and what sensations come with that experience of locating your intuition, and then to place your hands there if it feels okay, and really breathe into it and see it, and allow it to be big. Um, and and when there are questions, when there is fear, when there is concern, when boundaries are being violated, to return to that sacred position of your hands on your intuition or in the place where your intuition lives in your body, and remember your truth.
Mm.
And let's see how that shifts, if it shifts anything, right? And how it supports the embodiment of truth.
I love that. And I'd love to also add on to that because for those of us who do identify as intuitives, it oftentimes that comes with being a very empathic person. And my belief
Mm-hmm.
is that everybody is an empath. It's just somewhere along the way as you grew up,
Mm-hmm.
whether within your childhood or your adulthood, something caused you to maybe dissociate from being able to tap into those feelings. And for some of us, just the portals have been opened for us to be able to feel everything. And that's why many of us go into the professions of being a healer or service provider. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you are somebody who tends to take on other people's problems or the world's problems as if it is your own, you are not alone. And the deeper invitation is for you to now alchemize that or transmute that into loving kindness. And I don't mean to say that in a way to spiritually bypass the muck that we need to go through in order to get to the other side. And it's also not to say that you need to suffer in order to experience joy,
Mm-hmm.
but that if we can find where it is that intuition lies in our body, feel the weight of it, and baby it, just like what we were saying in the beginning. Give it the love and the tenderness that it may be crying for,
Mm-hmm.
then we can transmute that into, then we can also transmute that suffering onto others. Not to say that we're here to heal anybody or fix anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but the medicine truly does begin with ourselves.
Totally. Yeah. Ashe.
Yeah. So, Dr. Sheena, where is it that people can go to find you? Tell us more about Kindred Medicine.
Yes, thank you for asking that. So the you can find me on the gram at Kindred Medicine. My practice at Embodied Truth Healing. If you link to at Kindred Medicine or at Embodied Truth Healing, you can usually find your way to the other. And our website is www.kindredmedicine.com. I also recently launched a sacred storytelling podcast, which centers the stories of Black, Indigenous, POC, and our beautiful stories in healing. It is a collection of stories and memoirs, and I am so happy to be holding and witnessing the stories that have been shared so far. So you can find that on the website. And as June mentioned, Kindred Medicine is a community of healers of color who are standing in shared intention to close the gaps, which we're seeing a lot of the gaps exposed here in our healthcare system. So it's really about closing the gaps of accessibility and returning to what we know in some of our indigenous wisdoms and bridging Western and what has been referred to as alternative medicine together so that our communities can heal wholly, mind, body, heart, and spirit. And I would love to connect if anyone has further questions or
Mm.
curiosity.
Yes, it's new age with a K. We already knew this stuff.
Right, right.
And yeah, we're just reawakening to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to say that it's likely been borrowed or stolen from us and being sold as reupholstered as new age, sold back to us. But we know where the original medicine came from.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheena, for the work it is you're doing and how you are helping so many of us reclaim what has always been ours. So I appreciate you and your work and your medicine, especially for being a full embodiment of it.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for such a breeze, and on a Monday, a breeze, and a shifting world in the ways that you hold space for story as medicine. I see you.
Thank you. And another plug in that Dr. Sheena hosts a monthly circle called Heal the Healers, which is amazing too. So if you are not ready to join the Kindred Medicine community, at the very least, tune into the monthly circles because it's just an amazing heart to offering for you to be able to connect with other like-minded souls on this journey of reclamation.
Yeah, thank you, June. It's every second Wednesday, 4 p.m. PST. You can stay close to the gram for that. And if you're interested in co hosting Hold the Healers with me, I'd love to have you join me.